Welcome back to another edition of the Quick Bricks NBA DFS podcast, brought to you by always the good guys over at fantasydegens.com. We have an 11-game slate for this Monday, October 28th. Nice little 11-game slate to pick from. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good slate. As always, we will break down we'll talk about the games first, of course. We'll talk about the totals, the spreads, and then we'll jump into positionals. So, to start it off, we'll talk about the games. Pacers at the Pistons. Here's a rematch of the game that we had last Wednesday, I believe, where Drummond blew up. Of course, a couple of other people had some really good games there. But you have the Pacers coming in here as a 2-point road favorite with a total of 213. Not a really big total on this one. Game number 2, you have the Chicago Bulls going into New York to face the Knicks. This is a game that I really like. I think this one's going to be highly stackable, and I will be looking to target quite a few people on this game. 224 on that one. 76ers and Hawks has yet to come out with a line. They, I believe, are waiting on the news for Joel Embiid, so we'll be looking to see what that total is tomorrow. Moving right along, we have the Magic at the Raptors. We have Toronto coming in here as a 4.5-point home favorite. This is a big East Clash, playoff matchup here. Total is 212. Do not like the pace in this game. Do not like a whole lot in that game. Obviously, for that reason, it's not exactly one that you look to target in DFS. Moving along, you have the Warriors going on to take on the Pelicans in New Orleans. The Warriors were a loser again today whenever they took on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do not have a total on this game. Do not have a line on this game, as I think they're waiting to see if Drew Holiday plays. Waiting on some news there as well. So, of course, that'll be another game that we will look to wait for the total on. But, of course, we know that game is going to have lots of pace. We know that the Pelicans love to get up and run. We've already seen that they don't really give too much of a shits on playing defense as well. So that's a game that we're probably absolutely going to look to target. Next one we have is the Thunder and the Rockets. I'm pretty sure the total on this one is 225.5. Obviously, a game that we're going to be looking at targeting as well. That's going to have a nice little high pace, so we will look to target that game. Next one, we have the Cavs and the Bucks, 222, but we do have a 15-point favorite here for Milwaukee. Obviously, we know that the Cavs are not very good. We know that the Bucks are very good, so this is one that we probably might not be looking to target as much, and of course, we know who's in this game, so we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Next one, we have the Blazers going into San Antonio to take on the Spurs with a total of 220. San Antonio is a 4.5-point home favorite here. Next game, we have the Jazz traveling over to Phoenix to take on the Suns, who were just winners over the Clippers a night ago. So you have Utah as a minus 5-point road favorite here, total of 217. That is warranted, as we know the Jazz are not a paced-up squad. We'll go ahead and go to the next one. We got the Nuggets going into Sacramento to play the Kings. Denver, minus 6. And we have a 218 total. I really like that game, and I like quite a few pieces of it. Hornets and the Clippers. Clippers are a minus 15.5-point home favorite here, and 225 on that total. So that rounds out the games. Of course, like I said, we're going to be waiting on a few games, trying to see what the totals are in those other ones. But we already know that there are a few we're going to target. So, to go ahead and jump right on into it, we will go position by position, as always. We'll start with the point guard. Up at the top, I believe you have to look at Stephen Curry. There's really no reason not to here. We know that this game is going to have a lot of pace. They're playing the Pelicans. If Drew Holiday is out, that's obviously a boost to him, I believe. Curry at 9.5, we know he's going to take lots of shots. They're going to have it. He's going to have to. This feels like a game where Curry could literally blow up. We know the Pelicans don't really care to play defense. And I think this is a really, really good spot for Curry. Below him at 9.4, you have Russell Westbrook. The guy's price has not gone up at all. He had a triple-double last game. He really hasn't changed much of his game from going from OKC to Houston. So I really like what Russell Westbrook, especially paying up in this top tier. I think you have to look at him as well. Of course, we know that he's actually going into a revenge spot here while playing OKC. So you obviously get the revenge narrative as well with Russell Westbrook. You know that he's going to want to trash his old team. So you just know that from him. Anyway, Curry at 9.5, Russell Westbrook 9.4. Trae Young's price has jumped up. He's now $9K flat on DraftKings. He's just been dominating lately. Don't really mind him against Orlando. I think that it's a decent spot. We know DJ Augustine is not the greatest. He's not the greatest defender. He is pricey, but for what he's done, and they're at home, I don't mind it. Moving down just a little bit and staying in that top range, I think your last spot here is going to have to go to Kyle Lowry at 7.3. He's been doing a lot more this year for this team since the departure of Kawhi. Lowry is literally one of those guys that has a triple-double threat almost every night. And it might be 10-10-10, but he's been one of those guys that can continually put up, the extra stats that you're going to need. You're going to need that upside. Plus, his price is just so friendly here at 7.3. So that kind of rounds out the top tier for the point guard. Let's go down a little bit. The first one in the medium tier is going to be Malcolm Brogdon at 6.9. He actually put up 45.3 fantasy points against this same Detroit team. If you listened to the pod last time on Saturday, you heard me say that is going to be a spot we're going to look to target Detroit against point guards. They can't defend point guards. Detroit has never been able to defend the point guard spot. Derrick Rose, Reggie Jackson's dealing with injuries. So Brogdon at 6.9, totally fine with. Lonzo Ball at 6.3, of course, is going to be a part of that New Orleans and that Golden State game. You're going to want it, especially if Drew's not out. We saw him come out and light it up a little bit last game. So Lonzo at 6.3. One of my favorite plays, though, is Dejounte Murray at 6.1. We do have San Antonio as a decently, they're a medium favorite, I believe, here. But nonetheless, I really like the spot here for them. They're playing against Portland. Portland was playing today, so they're on a back-to-back. Murray is still somewhat on kind of a pitch count or a minutes restriction type deal. But at 6.1, we saw him go for over 40 already, and he did it in like 24 minutes. Dejounte Murray he's going to continue to get better as the season goes, and he's going to be one of those guys that you're going to want to target like early and often. So at 6.1, I'm on him. D Rose at 5.4. Totally don't mind, especially if Reggie Jackson sits as well. I mean, that's just an even more added boost to him. We know that he's going to get his shots in. The guy's averaging 25 real points right now on the young season. I thought it was highly notable that he is a 37.5% usage rate as well. That is extremely high. Obviously, is it sustainable? Probably not. But it's one of those things that you just kind of have to ride the wave while it's there. Staying in that middle tier, Kobe White for the Bulls at 5K. Again, that's one of the spots we're going to be looking. The Knicks don't guard anybody really well. So Kobe White has came on really strong so far, being his rookie campaign for the Bulls. And they're giving him playing time. So Kobe White, if you want to dip down into the value, the punt plays for point guard, I think Alonzo Trier at 3.4, of course, is a part of that. The Bulls and the Knicks stack, I'm not going very far past that at all. So probably paying up at point guard more so. I think there's a lot of guys that you need to pay up for. The Curry, Westbrook. I think Lowry's fine at his price. Dejounte Murray. Those are probably my four favorite plays at the point guard spot. Moving over to shooting guard, you have Booker at 8.5. If Rubio happens to sit again, you got to play Booker, I think. I mean, it's really hard not to. We know he's going to garner all the usage. We know that he's going to take his shots. The offense will flow through him. It's not the best matchup. We know that. However, you've got to play. It's not almost like, the Harden without CP3 last year, but it's pretty close. I don't think he'll get 38 or 39% usage, but he's pretty dang close already. So Booker at 8.5. If Rubio sits, love it. Donovan Mitchell at 7.8. The flip side of that game, We know Booker's not as great of a defender. So Donovan Mitchell, this seems like a spot where he could do really well. One that I really like is Zach LaVine, of course, at 7-7, playing against the Knicks, sorry. We know that he's going to be one of the guys. Him and Lauri Markkanen are the Bulls. So LaVine at 7-7, I think, is a very, very fair price. Lou Williams at 7-1 kind of rounds out that top tier. Obviously, gets a great matchup here. So love Lou Williams. Going down below the 7K range in the middle, you got Fred VanVleet at 6.3. Toronto playing Orlando. We know Orlando doesn't exactly guards well. So Fred VanVleet, I think at 6.3 is totally fine. RJ Barrett for the Knicks, of course, staying in that game stack, 6.1. He's really come on strong. He's been playing really well. I think he's top 35 fantasy points in 2 of the 3, or maybe even all 3 games so far. So RJ Barrett, totally fine with. Buddy Hield at 6K. I think he's going to be one that's going to be overlooked. I will probably have a decent amount of Buddy here. Obviously, we know that the Kings are playing. Who are they playing? The Kings, where are they? Oh, of course, the Nuggets, sorry. They're playing the Nuggets. I think that game's going to have decent pace. And they're at home, where Buddy usually typically tends to shoot better. So I think Buddy Hield at 6K is a bargain. I think it's a decent value for his price, and we know how much he can shoot. If he's shooting 16 or 17 times a game, I want him. So below that, I was pretty surprised to see that Elfrid Payton is now a shooting guard on DraftKings. I did not know when they moved him to shooting guard, but he is. He is 5.1K. So, of course, being another part of that Chicago and New York stack, 5.1 on Elf seems pretty criminal, but at the same time, it is Fizdale. You don't love his rotations, and they're hard to trust. So, kind of got to take it as it comes. So that kind of rounds out the middle tier. Going below that, 4.9K and under, Luke Kennard at 4.9, I think is really, really a good play. He's been stepping in really nice. Josh Hart had his price raised from 3.6 to 4.8. But if Drew Holiday happens to sit again at 4.8, I don't think you can fade Hart here in this game as well, being that high total with Golden State. So Hart at 4.8, I'm totally fine with. One that I think I also like as well on the other side of that is JJ Redick at 4.5K. I think Golden State's going to give up some perimeter shots, and that, of course, is going to fall right into JJ Redick's wheelhouse. I think he's going to be taking a lot of shots. So JJ Redick at 4.5, I think is totally fine. So moving right along, that will do the shooting guard spot. Let's move right along to small forward. You have Giannis here at 10.6. They are playing the Cavs. They are 15.5-point home favorites here. Can Giannis put up 65 points in 28 minutes? Absolutely. He is a lot cheaper here on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. So for that being said, if you like Giannis, I'm totally fine with that. I think for GPPs, I might be trying to spend up elsewhere, hopefully with some guys that I think are going to play a full game. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, love Giannis. He's a beast. He's averaging 71 fantasy points right now in 2 games. But he also played 30-something minutes in those games. With that being said, it's iffy, it's questionable, but you got to love him as well. I mean, there's just nothing around that. Ben Simmons at 8.8. Is Embiid going to play? We saw kind of last year that Ben didn't do exactly what we thought he would do whenever Embiid didn't play. There was a few games that he had some monster games, but more often than not, he didn't. So at 8.8, I don't mind Ben. One play that I really, really like, of course, is Brandon Ingram at 7.5K. His price really hasn't moved a lot. He's balling, man. I mean, he's taking up all the usage. With Zion out, and now that Drew Holiday's out, he's the one that's been grabbing all the usage. So if Drew Holiday is out, he's going to be probably a lock button for me at 7.5K. I don't think there's any way around that. Middleton, I mean, even if Drew plays, I'm still fine with him at 7.5K. Really like Ingram. Chris Middleton at 7.2. I think if it's not a Giannis game, it's going to be a Middleton game. That's the way I'm kind of looking at that one. And I'm kind of looking at that pivot to that cheaper Middleton here at 7.2K. We know Cavs don't defend well anywhere, really, but this could be a game that Middleton could potentially go off. So Chris Middleton, I'm totally fine with at 7.2. Tobias Harris at 6.5, over 40 fantasy points in his last 2 games. We know he was one of the main beneficiaries with Embiid out. So if he happens to sit again, I don't really think you can afford to pass up Tobias Harris at 6.5K. Kelly Oubre at 6.1, over 35 fantasy points in his 3 games that he's played so far. He's basically their go-to guy behind Booker. He's the number 2 scoring option. He's gonna get his. Again, as you can see, over 35 in his last 3. So 6.1K, totally fine with that. Not the greatest matchup against Utah. He's there though. Will Barton at 5.3. He's definitely a GPP tournament play. He has the upside. We saw that in game 1 when he put up over like 35 fantasy points. But then again in game 2, he played 21 minutes and put up like 19. It is kind of what you get here, but it is a good matchup. They are playing against Sacramento in Sacramento. I like Barton quite a bit as a GPP play. Below him, Wes Matthews, for some reason, hit the small forward spot. She's shooting guard and small forward. Either way, 4.1K, 30 minutes or more in his last 2, 20.8 and 27 fantasy points in those 2. He's getting ample run. He's a starting 2 guard for him. Again, they're playing the Cavs. We've targeted the Cavs for years and years since LeBron left. So another one at the kind of a bargain binner is Kevin Knox at 3.6. Again, another part of that Chicago and New York stack. But he's played 21, 29, and 26 minutes in his last 3 games. We know Kevin Knox loves to shoot. We know that he's going to shoot. So Kevin Knox, I think, is fine at 3.6 if you want to throw him in a tournament. That is the round out for the small forward. Let's move over to power forward. Pascal Siakam at 8.7. I don't need to emphasize him. He's good. He's really good. LaMarcus Aldridge at 7.8. I think this is another game. Obviously, it's a revenge game. Portland is coming to San Antonio this time. And I think I like him more in San Antonio than I like him in Portland in that revenge aspect. So at 7.8, LMA, definitely in play for me. Lauri Markkanen, 7.7. I said him and Levine are going to be the ones that I want in this stack. I'm sticking with that. He's fair priced. He's going to get the usage. Sabonis at 7.6. He tore up this Detroit matchup in game 1. At 7.6, totally fine. I'm fine with him. He had a double-double, and he had a really, really good game in game 1 against Detroit. So Sabonis going back there. And probably my favorite power forward center play in this range at the 7K and below is Montrezl Harrell for the Clippers. Playing Phoenix, who we know doesn't have Ayton. They've been giving a lot of run to Frank Kaminsky. They've been giving a lot of run. Of course, Aaron Baines is down there, but I'm not worried about Baines. So Harrell at 6.4, totally fine with. Al Horford, revenge game against Atlanta. Another revenge spot. Al Horford at 6.2, especially if Embiid is out. He saw a nice little uptick last game as well with him out. So if he is out again, Horford at 6.2 is something you can look at. One more revenge spot here for you, and that is Ibaka. They are playing Orlando at home. Of course, he did play for Orlando for a little bit before he went to OKC. He's 5.5K, and he's put up over 30 fantasy points in his last 2 games. So Ibaka at 5.5, I like him quite a bit. And then I do have a pair of Suns here with Frank the Tank at 5.3, 33 and 29 minutes in his last 2, 34.8 and 37 fantasy points. Again, he's been one of the other beneficiaries of Ayton being suspended. He's getting a little extra run. He's making the most of it. So at 5.3, don't mind Frank. Dario Saric at 4.8. On the other flip side of that, he's played over 30 minutes as well in his last 2, and he put up 38.5 fantasy points in his last game with a double-double. So Dario Saric, the guy that they want him to be, could be turning into that guy. So that being said, that rounds out the power forward spot. Moving over to the center spot, where I really don't like a whole bunch. I think you do have to pay up here for center, but I think you're staying at the top, really. You're paying for Jokic at 9.6 versus Sacramento, total smash spot. You're paying for Drummond at 9.3. In the same matchup that he put up 32 points, 23 rebounds, 23 rebounds and 2 assists. So, do we think he replicates that? Probably not. But do we think that he can get 15 and 17? Probably so. So, again, Jokic, Drummond. I think if you go below that, you have to go at Tristan Thompson at 6.3 versus Milwaukee. We know Brook Lopez does not really care to rebound. And that's, Tristan Thompson could have 15-plus rebounds. Let's put it that way. Last game, put up 25 and 10. So 25 points, had 10 rebounds, had also 3 blocks. At 6.3 versus Milwaukee, Tristan Thompson, I don't hate it at all. Other than him, Aaron Baines at 5.1. He has now played 30 and 31, 30.3 and 32.5 fantasy points in those last 2 games as a starter now for DeAndre Ayton. Again, I'm totally fine with that. The Clippers I'm fine with him, I'm fine with Baines. At 5.1, I don't think that's a terrible price for a starter that's going to get 30 minutes and who's put up over 30 fantasy points in his last 2 games. So that is it. That will do it for this edition of the Quick Bricks NBA DFS podcast. Hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. Hope you're having a great Monday. And let's chat about the slate later on today. See you.